Hello, citizens of the Nigelverse. It is Nigel here. It's time for our first Christmas movie to bring holiday cheer. Here, and although the movies are in order and maybe a bit listless, it's time to start off with How the Grinch Stole Christmas, a request from a friend to review this movie for you all. So let's get right into it and let's have ourselves a ball. All. Wow, that rhyme actually turned out better than I thought it would. But yes, so we are actually starting off with our Christmas reviews. Don't worry, I'm probably not going to rhyme for the rest of the review, at least not intentionally. But so yes, we're starting off our Christmas movies, and this was actually a request from a friend of mine. This is one of her favorite Christmas movies, so we're going to review it. I decided to put it on the list. It's for Christmas movies that we're reviewing, and we got some good ones this holiday season. But as always, I'm not professional movie reviewer analyst, just a man who enjoys a good time, and I, for the most part, had a good time with this movie. The thing is this movie, right off the bat, this is a movie I haven't seen in a long time, at least not in its entirety. In a long time, this is something I watched growing up, and this is my first time going back and rewatching it in its entirety, like the whole thing, in a long time, in quite a few years actually. And mostly because as you get older, sometimes your interests change, and you don't watch as many Christmas movies. I still obviously watch Christmas movies, but you don't watch as many as you grow older. But because it was a request, I figured I'd put it in here. But the other thing is that because it's a movie I haven't watched in a long time, some of it hasn't aged the best, and that was kind of just how it was back then. But obviously we'll get into it. But the other thing is that this is a bit of a polarizing movie. Like, a lot of people like this movie, a lot of people don't. More famously, the big one I can think of is that the nostalgia critic hates this movie. He prefers the OG one, the 1966 TV special, I believe it was. Pretty much like the cartoon animated one, and prefers it a lot more to this one. But maybe some nostalgia bias, considering, like I said, this is a movie I kind of grew up with. But we'll get into it. Let's dive right on in and see How the Grinch Stole Christmas. If you've seen these reviews of mine before, you kind of already know how this works. If you haven't, I'm going to be talking about what I liked and what I disliked about the movie. So starting with what I liked. This movie is just a whole lot of fun, and I think a lot of that boils down to the Grinch, the main character, and of course he's played by Jim Carrey. Me personally, I know a lot of people don't really like him. Me personally, I love Jim Carrey. Like, at least in terms of an actor, like Jim Carrey, he admittedly not everybody's cup of tea. He a lot of his stuff is very physical comedy with a lot of movements and facial expressions, and the fact that he's able to contort his face to rise up like the Grinch did in the cartoon special, and we get it even here in this movie, is admittedly pretty fun. Is admittedly pretty cool and pretty fun. Like stuff like that, I always appreciate, and the fact that if I'm not mistaken, that makeup and everything, I think I'm gonna see if it's on the wiki here, but if I'm not mistaken, I think I heard somewhere that makeup took like hours to apply. To Jim Carrey, and they definitely went all out with it. I'm trying to see exactly where. There it is, but I don't think it's listed on the wiki here, so that does kind of suck. But I know, I think it might have been this. I think it might have been this Grinch where the makeup took a while to do and was somewhat uncomfortable, but he stuck through it. He stuck through it, and there's that. A lot of the antics and stuff he gets up with, some of it even improvised, such as like that scheduling scene where he talks about his schedule, and where he legitimately does like the tablecloth trick where you rip the tablecloth off and the stuff still stays on there, or that was really fun, and just like a fun character throughout. And him, of course, stealing Christmas. So the story is supposed to go that the Grinch ultimately steals what he believes to be Christmas, that being that being the presents and the lights and the decorations and stuff. But then the people still celebrate and still like sing or still holly and jolly, because that's not what Christmas is all about, which of course is supposed to be the moral of the story, is that Christmas isn't in like things that you buy. It's not monetary, it's not the gifts, it's the people around you who and they try to get that across in the movie. A keyword try, and I'll get into it. But yeah, so the Grinch ultimately steals it. Ultimately gives everything back. He stops the sleigh from having everything destroyed, all the presents and stuff. Brings it back to the Who's. And in the case of this movie, there's some added layers. They try to kind of establish more of a connection between the Grinch and the Who's how he has. As a child, he was pretty much an outcast. As ultimately he removed himself from Whoville, lived up in the mountains, decided to seclude himself in the mountains and everything, because he was picked on and made fun of as a child, including having a little crush on Martha, and ultimately her trying to reciprocate, but Mayor Augustus Mayhew, which funny name, but Mayor Augustus Mayhew swoops in, pretty much tries to steal his thunder, makes fun of him, stuff like that, and then later on, still nothing changed. They make fun of him again. The Grinch does show up in Whoville, and I know I'm kind of all over the place, but something I mentioned before, I'm gonna try to do with like movie reviews and stuff like that, is kind of try to explain the story as well. So he does ultimately return, or at the behest of Cindy Lou Who, they give her more of a character. They try to establish more of a bond between her and the Grinch, and pretty much the Grinch is pretty much like the Voldemort, where his name can't be mentioned. Oh, you can't mention the Grinch, and I imagine and it is interesting commentary, because it's the mayor who really has a problem mentioning the Grinch for the most part, because of his own actions, which it is an interesting plot point, how the mayor is pretty much like the dedicated bad guy of this movie. And I feel like that kind of, it works, but it doesn't really work as well as it should have, and that I'll get into when it comes to like the cons or the dislikes. But yeah, so trying to flesh out the character more, or Cindy has some interactions with the Grinch, tries to convince him that hey, the Who's aren't bad, come celebrate Christmas with us. That's just for him to show up and have a lot, and he presented with a lot of holiday related stuff, and then ultimately made fun of by the mayor. So that's what enacts the Grinch to ultimately try and steal Christmas. It's and like I said, it's kind of noble in its attempt, but we'll get into why I think the execution isn't quite as good as it could have and should have been. But otherwise, as the Grinch is a lot of fun, seeing all the stuff he gets into, a lot of the jokes and stuff. Some of them don't really land as well, but most of them are pretty funny, and definitely some jokes that are kind of emblematic of the time, and some jokes that kind of don't really age well, but otherwise still a lot of fun. And the Grinch realizes that Christmas is all about family and giving and joy. His heart grows after being so small. It grows 3 times the size, of course, and it's what prompts him to bring the presents back. Invites all the Who's back to his cave for Christmas dinner, after ruining everything. Which wow, he really did solve world hunger, and he really did tell no one. But yeah, so. Those aspects I think really keep the movie afloat, and to the point where it even won an Academy Award, aka an Oscar, for I believe Best Makeup, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So it was nominated for Best Art Direction and Best Costume Design, and it won for Best Makeup. So 3 nominations in total, got one of them, and so not bad. And art direction and costume design, I can see like trying their best to bring how they look in like the book and subsequently the TV special, and I kind of compare it to the TV special because that's the other like really big, adaptation of the Dr. Seuss book, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And so I will kind of like reference and cross reference that, which that's another special I haven't seen in a long time, but yeah, so really trying to bring that into the live action format, and for the most part, it's it does kind of hurt a lot of like zany, crazy antics. It's very animated antics. It's for a lot of the Who's as they're prepping the Christmas decorations and things like that. But we'll get into it. Yeah, so that's the things I like. As for what I didn't quite like as much, some of the designs can be a bit jarring. And granted, this was a different time. This was 2000. More specifically, I believe. Yep. So November 8th in Los Angeles, and November 17th. Why does Los Angeles get everything first? Yeah. So some of the designs do kind of age like milk. Some do age relatively well, but some do age like milk. That's kind of just how it was for a lot of the stuff, especially in the 90s and 2000s. And of course, for some of that good old fashioned 2000s cheese. And really, it's kind of like 90s cheese, but it is going obviously into new century, new decade, new millennium, all that, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, so some of that cheese does linger there, and not all of it is Gouda, but yeah, so there is some of that going on, but also kind of the message behind it. So, and I think this is where a lot of like that polarization, like that kind of dislike that a number of people have for the movie. I think this is really where it comes in. Is the message, the moral of the movie is supposed to be that it's not about the present. It's about the loved ones and stuff that you have near. And the thing is, it's supposed to be a lesson that applies to everyone and everything. And is that it's supposed to be about love and family and happiness and Christmas time essentially. But making the Who's very much monetary, in where they always gotta like buy presents. Like, and you see a lot of scenes where they're buying presents all the time. And I mentioned before, some like the movements, it's like do look kind of weird. Kind of going back into my earlier point about some of the effects looking kind of weird. Or like if this was animated, like the '66 one, I think it'd be pulled off a little bit better. But it translating over to live action, I think it's fine for the most part. But but buying all the presents, all like the decorations and stuff, it's a lesson that definitely should apply to the who's especially the mayor, which the mayor being the dedicated bad guy, I think it does kind of take away a little bit from the whole it's supposed to be about everyone kind of scenario. Granted, this was kind of a time where the bad guy was supposed to get their comeuppance, and he does for the most part. He loses his girl, like the Grinch is allowed, and he essentially pays for his misdeeds. When he gets shaven across the head. But it does it almost kind of betrays its message a little bit. Like, it still holds on to the message in the end, and you're still able to get it across, but I do think the execution of it could have been done just a tad bit better. And you could tell they did it have to stretch out a little bit because the original, like the TV special, this one here, like the movie is about hour 46, if I'm not mistaken, or hour and a half or so. Meanwhile, the TV special, I'm gonna click on that's the wrong one. I'm gonna click on it just to see the runtime of the TV special. That runtime is about 25 minutes, so a lot shorter, or a lot more condensed, but it is able to do its message a lot. I think having sometimes having condensed, sometimes less is more, and sometimes having it condensed does allow it to a bit more really flesh out his message. And I know that's kind of a contradiction, that's kind of an oxymoron, but yeah. But as for this one, and it's not bad. Like the message still is kept across, but in execution, it's a tad bit strange. But they do learn their lesson, and they do hang out with the Grinch and stuff. But you can tell they did have to add a little bit more because it's supposed to be a movie. There's very few people who will probably sit through a 25-minute movie at the movie theater. That is, so they flesh it out, and nice ideas trying to connect the Grinch more with the Who's to really flesh that out more. But sometimes the execution doesn't work as well as it could have, or even probably should have. But nevertheless, that is going to do it for this review. Still a pretty fun movie for the most part. Like, if you don't take it too seriously, it's still a pretty fun movie. How does it compare to the original TV special? Well, probably not as well. Probably doesn't hold up as well, but still a lot of fun. I still had a lot of fun watching it. It's quite a few laughs, and Jim Carrey still does a really great job as the Grinch. But nevertheless, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor: like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video so you can see as soon as it drops. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on this review of the Grinch movie, and of course there's plenty more Christmas reviews coming out in the coming weeks. But let me know when it comes to this movie. Did you like to select the movie? Did you like to select my review of the movie? Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.